All right guys, me and Steven are out in the woods filming another video. We filmed this video about a year and a half ago, the same type of video, but a lot has changed since then, so we're just gonna do a little update. If you watched the video that we filmed earlier, you'll notice that a lot of things I say here will sound similar, but there are a couple pretty big differences, and that's just why we wanted to come out here and walk through this. So we got a tree picked out here, and we're gonna get set up in it just like I would if I'm self-filming in a saddle. The platform I use is the Predator platform from Tethrd. There are a lot more like recent versions that they've come up with this. I got this, I think 2.5 years ago, and there's a lot of mods that you can do to it to make it more comfortable for yourself. This is not what it looks like when it comes, but I've just kind of personalized it to my own liking, and it's worked great. It's held up, very comfortable. It's big enough, it's sturdy, and yeah. A tree like this is something that I would like to be up in about this size. Of course, I'd be 20 feet up, 25, depending on the situation. I normally carry 4 sticks and space them out as much as I can. But yeah, this is a pretty similar size to how I would be up in the tree in a hunting situation. But we're gonna do it down low so that Steven can film. Move my bow here and get this platform on. This is just a classic cam buckle that comes with the platform. Okay, that's about as good as we're gonna get. Not gonna spend too much time on the ropes and stuff, but this is a Zook. I think they're Gen 1 or something. I made my lineman's belt with rope, but I figured if I were to be putting my life into something, I wanted it to be professionally made. And it's not that I don't trust myself, but I did not make this tether. I use a Ropeman sending device and the carabiner that came with it. I'd normally be on a lineman's belt getting up in the tree before I do this, and I would be standing on the platform when I'm putting the tether on. But for today, I don't want to put a lineman's belt on, so I'm going to climb up onto the platform after I attach my tether. So for the tether, a lot of people like to have it like chin or chest height. I like to have it a little bit higher, and this is a little low, so I'm gonna move it up even more. I like to have it a little bit higher because it makes it a lot easier to get the camera around the tree if I have to go under the bridge. So that's about head height, maybe forehead. So I guess I should go, the saddle I'm using is a Tethrd Menace. It's their lowest one. I don't even know if they make them anymore. I think they do. It's worked fine. Now I've used Steven's Ultra Lock or Lockdown saddle, whatever they call it now, and that thing's a luxury. It's a lot more comfortable than this, but this works pretty well. It doesn't have any bridge adjustments. It's really thin. It doesn't cover a whole lot, so it's pretty tight on surface area. So there's a lot of weird pressures, but I can do a long sit in it, especially with a knee pad. It's pretty comfortable. The backpack I use is a Sitka tool bucket. It's amazing. It's exactly what it says it is. It's basically a 5-gallon bucket that you can put on your back. When I open this, you'll be able to see it's just a big, just a bucket. And there's a lot of compartments on the side and ways to store stuff. But the first thing I pull out when I get up in the stand is my bow hook. I like to get this hung pretty much as soon as possible. Get my bow up in the tree. Swing around here, grab the bow, and this would be on a muddy pull-up device. It's kind of like a dog leash, one of those retractable things. Started using that this year. Don't have it with me right now, but that is something that I highly recommend. It makes everything a whole lot nicer. I used to use a piece of paracord, and I have to wrap that up every time I got up in the tree, and it would get tangled on stuff. But transitioning to the pull-up device, that's definitely something I would recommend. So now that the bow's up in the tree, I kind of push that out of the way, and I start to get all my camera stuff up. So like I said, it's just a big bucket with a lot of stuff in here. First is my camera bag. This actually gets used later. I hang that from my tether. And what I'm really getting down in here for is the camera base. So this is the Muddy Outfitter. I believe this is called the Outfitter. It's kind of like their middle of the line camera arm. Steven has a lot bigger one that's very hefty, but this one's a lot smaller and easier to pack in, and it holds my camera well. My camera is not too heavy. It's nice and small. I know 4th Aero makes a really packable setup, but this one was more budget friendly than those camera arms. All right, simple ratchet, nice and sturdy there. I'll adjust this to be level, like that, and then throw the arm portion on. And it's not quite level, so I'll work on that. There we go. And then I like to go a little bit past level on the upward side, just when the weight's on the end of the arm here and there's a lot of leverage. So that's pretty much it for my backpack that I need at this point. So I hang this from the strap on the camera arm. One thing that you've probably heard me mention a lot is that this stuff is packable and compact. That's super important to me when I'm saddle hunting, especially. Saddle hunting is supposed to be really mobile, and you should be able to get into a lot of areas where you wouldn't normally be able to get into with a bigger pack and whatnot. So just having everything be able to fit in a pack and being light is super important. So this is the Ulanzi Fluidhead. It's like 40 bucks on Amazon. It holds my camera well. I wouldn't put an A7S III like Steven has on that. That would be a little too heavy, but it works pretty well for the 6700. So yeah, nice and compact, small fluid head. I used to have a big one. It was just a mess. Anyway, one thing I forgot to mention earlier when talking about the saddle and the tether, the ropeman I have on the right side. Having the claw on the right side, I can scooch up or kind of back off with my right hand with the bow in my left. So that's just something I wanted to mention there. Next up is the main camera. So this is probably the biggest thing that I've changed. This is a Sony 6700. I filmed a season and a half with this thing, and it's pretty much perfect for what I need it for. I was shooting with a Canon, but switching to a mirrorless, and Sony is ahead of the game on pretty much everything in my opinion. Their autofocus, all their AI in their camera, it's amazing. Sony's ahead of the game in a lot of stuff, the mirrorless, the AI. Sony's ahead of the game with this camera. AI, the autofocus, and the mirrorless capabilities, and just all the shooting capabilities really in an APS-C camera. I have a lot of great things to say about it, and I'll hit on a couple as we're setting up here. So this goes on the fluid head. I have a wrist strap here. I loop that around the handle just in case it falls off, and then I slide the camera on and tighten it down. All right, so the camera's on there now. Pull the lens cap off and put the lens hood on. So this is the Rode VideoMicro. I think I've had this for 4 years. It still works perfect. Always keep the dead cat wind muff sock thing on it. And then I have a triple cold shoe splitter. It's Ulanzi once again. And the reason I have that is because of the cage. Now the cage is a small rig. It first of all allows me to have a better grip on the bottom here. It extends the profile of the camera, and you get a fourth finger on it when you're doing handheld stuff. And it also protects the camera in case it falls out of the tree, and we have unintentionally tested that before. So the cold shoe mount goes onto the corner, and as you can see here, if Steven moves around, it would be off to the side, and that's just a bigger profile up in the tree. It makes it harder to get around the bridge if I need to move it around the tree. So just the triple splitter gets the mic over the center of the camera, and then I can also put a light on here and also the wireless mics if I need it. So we'll tighten that down here, loop that around, open up this door, and plug this inside of the camera. So the 6700 came out not this past summer, but the summer before. I guess it was summer of 23. It is their APS-C line, but they put their best AI inside of this camera. So by way of mirrorless, it's not as good as a full frame camera, and it doesn't do as well in low light, but it does way better than any DSLR camera out there. This camera can shoot 1080, 30, 60, and 120, but the higher in frame rate you go up, the more fuzzy the image looks. And if you go in 4K, it does a pretty good job at fixing that fuzziness, especially if you shoot an S-Log. And S-Log also allows you to get better low light if you edit in post. It also has 4K 120 capability. In order to shoot that, you need a UHS 2, at least a V90. I use a ProMaster 128 gig card, and that allows me to shoot 4K 120. I don't do that too much. It's normally only kill shots and a little bit of B-roll. Everything else is done in 4K 30, like interviews and all that, and I rarely use 4K 60. There are a ton of lenses that you can use on Sony cameras, not just Sony brand either. You can get a Canon lens with an adapter for a Sony camera. So there's a ton of customization that you can do there. I just choose to use the 18-135 kit lens that came with the 6700. It's really good for anything probably within 75 yards. So not just bow hunting, you could use it for rifle if you got deer up close. Like I said, it is a kit lens, so it's not the best, but it works for what I do. It's f3.5 to 5.6, so decent in low light combined with a mirrorless. I can hunt from first light to last light, which is super important, especially for deer. As you guys know, like, a lot of stuff happens in those low light conditions, and it's important that you get it on film. So this lens does the job. I might upgrade here in the near future, but for now, I'm pretty content with it. The last thing I want to mention with this camera is the batteries. So the battery that they chose to use with this 6000 series camera is the same battery that they use in the bigger full frame cameras like the A7 series. So powering a smaller camera with a battery that's normally used to power a big camera, you get a ton of battery life. I have two. One of them Sony brand and one of them is ProMaster, and I only need two to film a full day of hunting. I never have any battery issues, even in the cold. Never really have an overheat issue because I'm not filming middle of summer, but normally I only use battery and a half average for a day of hunting. So that's it for the main camera. Since that's set up, I'm gonna move that off this side and get the secondary camera set up. So I'm gonna switch this out here, reach in here and grab my secondary camera bag. Put that there. This is the bag that actually came with the 6700, but it wasn't big enough to fit the 6700 and the mic in it, so I use it for other stuff. In here I have an extra battery for the Osmo, and then other SD cards in there. DJI mic mini. I'll set that in my bag. We got the DJI Osmo Action 4. Set that there. And then this is just a simple trail camera mount. I like to put this right up top here, right in front of me. Screw that in and get this level and lined up. All right, let's talk about the Osmo Action 4. So a lot of professional YouTubers are actually switching to this. I mean, Seek1 switched to it. Flare, if anyone watches Flare, he switched to these. They're cheaper than the GoPros, and they have the same, if not better, features. It's got a wide angle lens, it's good in low light, it shoots in D-Log, and it has 4K capability. That's pretty much it. That's all you really need. So super nice, clips right on. I have a cage on it for obvious reasons, just in case it falls. But once it's there. And it's super fast, nice and easy. DJI also has the Osmo Action 5 Pro. It wasn't that much better than the 4, so I couldn't justify spending an extra $100 on that. But the front screen, it's just, there's a lot of videos on YouTube about it. You guys go watch them. There's a reason why everyone's switching to them. So I run a 128 gig card in there, and it's good to film as much as I need for a hunt. The battery lasts about 2 hours on 4K 30 continuous recording. If it's off and on, it'll last a whole hunt, just one battery. So I believe the last thing we have to talk about is the mics. Like I said earlier, I have the Rode VideoMicro on the main camera, and then you're able to connect these mic minis to the Action 4. They're also able to be stored with the wind muff on. Always keep them on, protect the mic from the wind, don't get bad audio. That's something that the first gen mics didn't have. I don't know if the second gen, the big ones, if they have that as well. It's just a convenience thing, so you're not fumbling around something that weighs nothing up in the tree when your hands are cold. The case is a charging case, so during a hunt, I'll have both of these connected to the camera, one at a time, but I could just switch in and out, and I never have mic problems dying. The main reason why I like this is because I can have a backup. That thing is always recording, but if I need to cut to something or if I'm talking to the camera, all I have to do is turn this on and I get really crisp audio of my voice. Having a secondary isn't necessary. You don't need it to film a hunt, but it's super nice to be able to cut to. It makes it a lot more seamless. If something's taking a while, you can just cut in between the two, and it seems like it happens really fast, and it's a lot easier for viewers to watch. It really depends when I knock an arrow. If I remember to do it, I do it right away, but if I don't, I just knock it once the camera stuff is up. I might move my bow a little bit closer, just like that. Take the quiver off, hang that from my tether. So now I'm hunting, everything up in the tree set up the way I like it. Just waiting on the deer at this point. So camera can swing all the way to the left, film anything front left, anything front right, obviously, back left, and back right. And then interviews, of course, I just flip the camera around, face it up here. I can also move the camera around the tree when I'm kneeling. It's just a more comfortable position in my opinion. I have a knee pad in my backpack, just not choosing to put it on today. Like I said in the previous video, this is my favorite way to self-film. It's so much easier than a tree stand, and that's just because everything is in front of you. You're not reaching behind you for a camera arm base or turning around. You're just facing everything here, and everything's accessible, super easy. To self-film, you do have to bring a lot more gear out into the field and leave a lot more time to set up, but it's one of the most rewarding things about a hunt, a successful hunt that is, and being able to share a story with the world. We're looking forward to turkey season here shortly, and then deer season in the fall, so please make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one here in Keystone Woods and Water.